for the vacancy of Justice Brion. I'm wondering, was he not going to consider you for the vacancy of Justice Perez, which was published earlier?
He was already talking to me even before the vacancies were published in the newspaper, and he actually told me that he has been praying for me, that I would be led to where I must be. So he was hinting at recommending me for the post. I expressed some hesitation, but later I agreed. And I wouldn't really know why he recommended me only to the post of Justice Brion, though perhaps he was also giving me time to reflect on it, Your Honor.
What emboldened you to accept the recommendation of Justice Abad?
Your Honor, yesterday, if I may inform you, I just reached my age of seniority.
Yes, we noticed that.
Yes, November 16, Your Honor. And I've had 40 years of government service, 6 years as a public school teacher, 24 years as an advocate in the Office of the Solicitor General, and almost 10 years in the Court of Appeals. I've been praying, Your Honor, and I really believe that this is the moment.
Thank you, Justice. Now, in your PDS, you also stated that you were once a bar examiner for political law in
Yes, Your
2011.
Honor.
I would just like to know, what are your views with respect to reverting back to essay-type questions in the bar as compared to having multiple choice questions as was in the two previous bar examinations? Do you feel that we are ready to shift to MCQ, or should we continue having the essay questions? And what would be an effective way to determine the preparedness of a law student to join the legal profession?
You know, Your Honor, when Justice Abad introduced the MCQ, it was not easy. He introduced us to the scientific method of preparing questions. Not everyone can just prepare MCQ questions. To be effective, the MCQ questions should have a certain combination, like 20% recall, 40% application, and 40% comprehension. And the length of the problems must also be taken care of, because we avoid the give-away choices. And the reach is very, very broad. You can actually accurately gauge how much the students know about the subject. So not everyone, it takes a lot of training to do that, Your Honor. We were trained around 6 months, and the training was by stages. It cannot be just one sitting. We had a lot of drill, Your Honor, and it was actually a lot of time and a lot of effort. But then, I believe in that system, Your Honor, provided the questions are crafted scientifically and the combination is also scientific, because the MCQs have been used all over the world. I think when it was introduced by Justice Abad, we were informed that it was only us who was not using it, along with Brazil, I think. And so he tried it. I believe in it. I accepted the assignment, although it was so difficult for me to draft a single question. It took me an hour to draft a single question and to think it was just a recall question. But when it came to comprehension and understanding, it took me 2 hours to prepare each question, because the question should be very simple, direct to the point, and fair to the students. But then, I think it's a balance what he did, because there was a portion, I think it's 40%, where the students were asked to prepare, draft a legal opinion and a memorandum. So from there, we were able to gauge exactly the capability of the student to reason out, to write, to apply logic. And we also studied and realized that those who passed the MCQ test were the same ones who passed the essay. So there was really compatibility, and there was consistency.
You continue to teach.
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you think that the current curriculum, law curriculum, is an effective way of preparing our law students for the practice of law?
Yes, Your Honor, except that I really believe that the curriculum should be standard, and the law schools should be given a syllabus for each subject so that it will be uniform, and the students do not have to rely on the patience, the understanding, and the output of the professors. They become self-reliant, and they push themselves farthest so that they will do learning their way, and they're experiencing it personally.
Thank you, Justice. Now, moving on to another topic. You once served the Office of the Solicitor General as an Assistant Solicitor General, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And several instances when we conducted interviews, one of the reasons for the delay in the appellate courts were actually postponements requested by the sometimes the ASG or some of the solicitors. Now, do you think that this is still true? It still holds true that they still request for an extension of time to file the required pleadings? And how do you address this if, as an appellate court justice?
Your Honor, when I was Assistant Solicitor General, I really believed that it was just a question of time management. And I was trained, and many of us were actually trained, beginning with former Solicitor General Estelito Mendoza, and then followed by Solicitor General Frank Chavez. We were trained to comply with deadlines. And if we didn't comply with the deadlines, our salaries will get suspended, sometimes even forfeited. So, because I wanted OST so much to be my career, I adapted to the discipline of OSG, Your Honor. And when I became Assistant Solicitor General, no court of law could ever attribute to my team delay, because I imposed on my lawyers that we should serve speedy justice. And now, as appellate court associate justice, I also impose the same on OSG, because I know I stayed there for 24 years. It's very doable, especially now that I think OSG's number has doubled or tripled ever since I left it, Your Honor.
Okay. I have the warning light there, so this is my last question. In 2012, you penned a decision in a case involving the extradition of a Filipino priest accused of sexual molestation in the U.S. In your decision, you stated, and I quote, "Suppression of crimes is a concern not only of the state where it is committed, but also of any other state to which the criminal may have escaped." End of quote. In the Philippines, this holds true. It is not too difficult for our neighboring countries to request for extradition. But do you think that we enjoy the same benefit now when, especially with respect to the U.S., should we need to extradite a foreign national to face our courts?
Yes, Your Honor. I think the U.S. is quite cooperative. When I was in the OSC, I handled a number of extradition cases.
How do you think we should be, we can be more effective in extradition cases, considering that like it can involve courts from all levels?
Your Honor, there must be cooperation, there must be consistency in our actions. We have to be prompt also in the preparation of our petitions, and it requires close coordination. So, from my experience, Your Honor, as Assistant Solicitor General, I didn't really have any problem. And I should also want to commend the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice was very, very efficient at that time. Whenever we received extradition requests, we promptly acted on them, Your Honor.
As I mentioned, that was my last question. Justice Javier, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Attorney Cayosa. May we request Judge Ilaw to continue? Judge, Attorney Miguel.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Justice Lazaro-Javier.
Good morning, Your Honor.
In his letter recommending you or endorsing you, your application, Justice Abad said, and if I may quote, Justice Javier is amply prepared to tackle the difficult job of an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. What aspect of the work of a Supreme Court Justice do you think would you find difficult?
Your Honor, for one who loves the practice of law, who has passion and love for the practice of law, the highest fulfillment is the Supreme Court. And in the Supreme Court, that is the final arbiter of all cases. We cannot afford to err. That is the challenge, Your Honor. We have to double, if not triple, all our effort, all our industry, and we have to be very keen about serving justice because the people have nowhere to go further.
What to your mind is needed to improve the moral fiber of the legal profession?
Your Honor, that should be taught early on in law school. And every lawyer, every judge has the obligation, the duty to be a role model to our young minds and the lawyers to be our young lawyers, Your Honor. Because it is only by seeing us as good examples that they will follow suit. And so I also believe that we have to be very strict in implementing our own code of conduct. We have to be very strict about the demeanor of every member of the judiciary, Your Honor. And everyone should realize that the most demanding of all is the profession of law, Your Honor.
I read from your personal data sheet that your husband is a lawyer and a private practitioner. And I also know of other members of the bench whose spouses, respective spouses, are private practitioners. I just want to know how you deal with such a situation, particularly in insulating yourself from the influence of the spouse, for example, in dealing with your work.
Your Honor, I married my husband because we shared and continue to share the same values of honesty, integrity, faith, and love for family. So I can say with conviction and honesty, but that my husband has never ever tried to influence me. He is the one who is shielding me.
Thank you. Let me now go to the tweeted questions. One or two from the tweeted questions. How do you view the credibility of the current Supreme Court?
Your Honor, the current Supreme Court may have rendered decisions that did not sit well with the perception of some regarding what must have been a just decision. But that should not diminish the credibility of the Supreme Court as an institution, Your Honor. After all, the Supreme Court has only one standard, that is to apply the rule of law.
Another tweeted question, and this may be my final question, is what is your personal opinion or personal stand on the issue of the Marcos burial?
Your Honor, I do not agree with the majority opinion of the Supreme Court. I think the conviction made by the people themselves is the highest conviction of all on earth. And no further conviction from any other inferior court, even the Supreme Court, can ever trivialize that conviction, Your Honor. And it lasts forever and ever, even beyond life, until and unless another people power can restore the person to his previous post or situation, because he was convicted by people power, which is the highest form of conviction. No other court can ever reverse that or can ever wash it off, except people power itself also. That's my view, Your Honor.
Coming from a constitutional expert, I agree to that answer, and thank you and good luck, Justice Javier. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Mejia. May we request now Judge Ilaw?
As a member of the academy and consistent honor student since high school, you have not pursued postgraduate studies after your law degree. Why?
Your Honor, I did not pursue postgraduate because I believe that giving back, I am more needed by the students of law, Your Honor. So my hands are so full teaching students of law. And even the postgraduate in Pamantasan and Lunsod ng Maynila, Your Honor. Because teaching has always been my passion, Your Honor. And I believe that each one of us should impart knowledge. That is our duty in order to continue the tradition of excellence.
All right, again, as a senior citizen, and you're aware that first level or lower courts are receiving allowances from the local government units.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you agree with the bill pending in the House of Representatives aimed at removing the allowances of the said members of the judiciary from the local government units?
I agree with that, Your Honor, provided the Supreme Court will give them a substitute allowance. They need it, Your Honor, and it's in the law.
Who needs it? Supreme Court?
No,
Members
Your
of the
Honor,
Supreme Court?
maybe not Supreme Court, maybe the lower court judges, Your Honor.
You attended a summer course on civil and commercial laws at Harvard University. What did you learn from such courses that you were able to apply it to the Court of Appeals?
Your Honor, I attended that when I was still Assistant Solicitor General. So, yes, I just discovered that Harvard also taught the same commercial and civil law as what is taught in our universities, Your Honor, because many of our provisions are also patterned after American laws.
And do you think you can apply the same to the Supreme Court if you are appointed as an Associate Justice?
Yes, Your Honor, the totality of my knowledge, Your Honor, and my experience.
As a member of the Academy for 33 years, a bar examiner and a bar reviewer, what changes do you think need to be effected in the bar examinations as to help aspiring lawyers to become a lawyer?
The bar examination should be reasonable, Your Honor. They should be limited to the basics. And there must be no unreasonable or unfair questions that are not relevant to what the students would need, the first year lawyer would need in his first practice of law.
Do you mean to say that the previous bar examiners are not reasonable?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have 354 decisions appealed or pending appeal. Do you think this number reflects the quality of the decisions you promulgate?
Yes, Your Honor, because 98% has been sustained by this court, and I was only reversed by 1.9%, Your Honor.
You rose from the ranks beginning as a solicitor at the Office of the Solicitor General. Records show that you have not gained any experience in the private practice. Do you think this is a disadvantage to you should you be appointed as a member of the Supreme Court?
No, Your Honor.
Why?
Because in the Supreme Court, there must be, the requirement really is practice of law as a judge, at least 15 years. I have been trained to have a judicial mind, Your Honor. I have been trained in the field of constitutional law, and in the OSG, 80% of every volume of the SCRA was handled by the Office of the Solicitor General. So I really believe that the career path that I took was is very relevant to the practice of law as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
So why do you correlate private practice as a practice in the government, following the doctrine in the Monsood case?
The private practice is a noble practice, Your Honor. But when one goes up as a magistrate, especially as a Supreme Court Associate Justice, you do not think anymore as a practitioner. You think as a jurist, one who decides cases.
What were your inputs while serving as a member of the Supreme Court Subcommittee on Revision of Rules of Civil Procedure?
Your Honor, I led the revision on special civil actions. And we've actually finished the revisions, and we submitted them to the Supreme Court, Your Honor.
But when was this, please?
This was in, I think, 2013.
All right, thank you. No further questions, and good luck, and a happy birthday again, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Judge Ilaw. Belated happy birthday also, Justice.
Yes,
So
Justice,
you are
thank you
now
po.
a member of our society.
Yes, Your Honor, and
Senior
proudly a member.
Okay. Of course, you know that sometimes I ask legal questions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Questions on, for example, international law, domestic laws, etc. Anyway, very easy. What is your concept of inquiry in aid of legislation?
Your Honor, inquiry in aid of legislation is the very essence of the legislature's function as a lawmaking body. Without it, the legislature will be paralyzed, just like what happened when the former president, issued 464. There were months that the processes served, the invitations served by the legislature were all snubbed. That's why the Congress, the Senate specifically, was forced to go up and question the issue of 464, Your Honor. And the Supreme Court rendered a very informative ponencia on what executive privilege means and how it complements or it must be treated vis-a-vis inquiry in aid of legislation, Your Honor.
Let us visit this Blue Ribbon Committee of the Senate. Of course, it invites resource persons, to aid the senators in crafting the necessary bills or laws. But you will also agree with me that sometimes the senators are abusive. They are not courteous, even if the Constitution says that the rights of those resource persons should be respected.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sometimes they even scold people appearing there, and that was the reason why the former Vice President Binay refused to appear. But why is it that there has been no complaint whatsoever from any sector of our society with respect to this kind of proceeding, which is highly irregular sometimes?
Yes, Your Honor. I agree fully, Your Honor. I was in the OSG when 464 was issued, and I believe that 464 was issued precisely in reaction to the hostile attitude of the Senate in handling the resource persons. The executive then believed that these people from the executive who were invited to how the Senate was treating the members of the executive, Your Honor. So I think several meetings were held between the executive and the legislature in order to avoid an impasse or a constitutional crisis, because when the executive no longer appears before the Senate has nothing more to do, and there will be constitutional crisis. And I think, Your Honor, they came up with some rules, the Senate, regarding how to fairly treat their witnesses or resource persons. Like, they will be informed beforehand of the legislation that is intended, and they would be informed also of the possible questions that will be asked.
You, Madam Justice, but even in America, that is being done. How they grilled all those people appearing before the Senate. But the reason is we allow this kind of proceeding, even if it is highly irregular, for the information of the public. That is the basic reason. Anyway, so how does an inquiry of aid of legislation differ from question hour?
Your Honor, question hour is also found in the provision under the legislature, and it's all about exercising the oversight function of the Senate or the Congress, wherein Congress may ask questions, or the members, department heads may voluntarily appear or may seek permission with the permission of the President to apprise the Congress on how they are implementing the laws that have been enacted by Congress, Your Honor.
That is correct. And so we now will move on to executive privilege, because this is really connected or relevant to the previous questions I asked. What is your concept, Justice, of executive privilege? And that was the reason why some cabinet members refused to appear before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, and it was justified.
Yes, Your Honor. The executive privilege is the privilege of the executive to withhold information from the court or from Congress of some information that are classified as either constituting the conversation of the President with his close advisors, military secrets, diplomatic negotiations, Your Honor, and those matters that were taken up in closed-door meetings with the President and his cabinet, and the instructions of the President to his department heads, and also those matters that involve national security, Your Honor.
Yeah, that is the most important, national security on the part of especially cabinet members, armed forces of the Philippines, especially the officers such as the generals. They cannot appear before, or even if they appear, they should invoke executive
Yes, Your
privilege.
Honor.
Okay. Justice, there has been extrajudicial killing anywhere in our country now. Do you think that is a crime against humanity?
Your Honor, crimes against humanity actually include extrajudicial killings, but only if they are perpetrated with deliberate intention and directed against a specific group or population that is widespread and systematic in nature, Your Honor. And yes, Your Honor, civilian population.
Killings is tantamount to crime against humanity? Is it widespread? Is it a part of a systematic plan
To warrant, Your Honor,
to attack,
yes,
to attack civilian population?
to warrant,
To warrant
the
that it
cognizance
should
of
fall under crime against humanity
yes, to
within
warrant the
jurisdiction of
exercise,
ICC?
to warrant, Your Honor, the exercise of jurisdiction by ICC.
Crime against humanity?
Your Honor, there are requisites before the ICC can take judicial cognizance.
Whether or not this extrajudicial killing is a crime against humanity.
Extrajudicial killing, if it is widespread and systematic, the direct attack on the civilian population or a group. Yes, Your Honor.
So that falls under the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Only if the party
Is a-
state.
so, in your own opinion, that is a crime against humanity. It is an attack against civilian population.
Your
Who
Honor,
composed the civilian population? The drug lords, drug pushers, suspects of people engaged in drug menace. So, you mean this constitutes civilian population?
are we talking now of what is happening in our country, Your Honor? Your Honor, if the killing or killings are directed against the civilian population, and these killings will not qualify as justifiable killings, like the person killed was not committing a crime, or was not or posing danger to the lives of the arresting officers. I would say that there is a need, Your Honor, to identify which deaths are justified because there was aggression also, there was danger posed on the life of the arresting police officer on one hand, and those that were not within the justified killings on the other, Your Honor.
Extrajudicial killing has become nationwide. So, can you consider this as an attack against civilian population? Yes or no? In your opinion
Your Honor,
only.
yes, Your Honor. This is just an academic discussion.
Academic.
Anyway, thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to also present my opinion on this. I think there is a need to determine which killings are justified.
No, at this point, we cannot
And
determine
which
anymore.
killings?
We cannot determine anymore. Maybe it can be determined when it's already before the tribunal concerned, which has jurisdiction.
No.
But at present, we cannot determine anymore. The killing has become so widespread.
Well, in
So
that case, Your
we
Honor,
cannot determine any more justice at this point. So, do you believe it is already a crime against humanity?
only if, Your Honor,
This,
the Philippines, the government specifically refuses or is unable to do it itself.
that is whether or not ICC has jurisdiction.
Yes, Your Honor.
In your opinion, is this not a crime against humanity at this stage? As you look at it,
No, Your Honor. No.
how about, is it a crime constituting genocide?
Not yet, Your Honor.
Why?
It's not as widespread or systematic, Your Honor. Not yet.
It's part of a widespread or systematic
Your Honor, I
plan
think we have to agree.
against any group, such as group of what?
Group of
Ethnical group, religious group, racial group. But the group concerned here constitutes people suspected of using illegal drugs, drug lords, etc. Is this not a group?
It is
So
a
you
group.
can classify extrajudicial killing as genocide.
It is a
It
group.
is a group,
But how big is the group?
3,000 plus.
Yes, Your Honor. If we speak of genocide or widespread, systematic, direct attack, we're not just speaking of thousands, I think. We must be speaking of hundreds of thousands, Your Honor.
So you are after the number, not after the group.
Yes,
you
Your
have
Honor, because it's widespread.
Can the ICC acquire jurisdiction, if ever?
Your Honor, first of all, there must be a clear showing that the Philippine government is unable or unwilling to make the investigation.
At present, do you think the government is unable or unwilling?
It is not unable, it is not unwilling. I just would like to believe what General Bato has testified on during the Senate hearing, that all these unjustified killings, even perpetrated by the police officers, are under investigation by the NAPOLCOM, Your Honor.
Do you know, Justice, if there has been investigation involving the killings consisting of more than 3,000 people?
No, Your Honor.
No.
I just
So do you think the government is unable?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. I do not have sufficient knowledge to conclude that the government is unable or unwilling. Because I just want to give credence to the statement of General Bato that he is actually having these killings investigated, Your Honor.
Say that there should be due process.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so
Yes, Your Honor.
the last question. In the event that our government is unwilling or refuses to take action on these extrajudicial killings, and supposing we designate these killings as genocide or crime against humanity over which the ICC has jurisdiction, how can that ICC acquire jurisdiction now?
The ICC can acquire jurisdiction in several ways, Your Honor. One is when the Security Council, motu proprio, the police of the ICC can, the prosecutor rather.
I leave you at that, Justice, because the red light is there. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
and
Justice.
happy birthday again.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honors.